The Charlotte Hornets are streaking through the Queen City. They're fighting on the court. The NBA is tanking. And I'm going to revisit how to fix the NBA. All right, it's been a long time since we've had the Charlotte Hornets to be relevant in the NBA. Actually, since about late 90s, early 2000s, before they moved to New Orleans. And lately, they have been the talk of the town. They've been the talk of the league, the media. I can't remember a time, again, since the original Charlotte Hornets, the media and the ESPNs, the podcasts out there that talk about sport, Bill Simmons, everyone that I can follow are talking about the Charlotte Hornets. Barkley's picking them to be in the play-in at least, and that would be amazing. So, right now, currently in the year 2026, the Charlotte Hornets are 15-7. They went on a 9-game winning streak, something they had not done since 1999, and finally we're getting to reap the benefits of had been a bad team, trying to find the right coach, trying to find the right chemistry, roster combinations that work. So, injuries have been a big part of the Charlotte Hornets, struggles in recent years, which has led to high draft picks. And, you want to see it come together. And they've hit and they've missed. Well, they've missed more than they hit on draft picks. So, that's me always defending, LaMelo Ball. They want to trade LaMelo Ball and things like that. And I'm just like, no, hold off. Like he's young for one. He's the only reason anybody watches the Hornets. Now they've added some pieces to say, okay, now Con Knippel is a reason to watch the Hornets. Brandon Miller is a reason to watch the Hornets. Miles Bridges has slowly, become an all-time Hornet. As he's been here, they've stuck with him through the good and the bad, and here he is. But yeah, so like I said, 15-7 in this year. I'm pretty sure on this stat it was 15-2 with the starting lineup of LaMelo, Miller, Knippel, Bridges, and Moussa Diabate. So when they have that starting lineup, and obviously they have that starting lineup now because then Grant Williams is back from injury, Josh Green is back from injury, and that just makes, like I said, you get that lineup in there, and you've got your bench, which is now deeper than it's ever been. The trade with Dallas, with the PJ Washington, all that has come full circle to again now finally be working out. Like you got deeper, and then you move those pieces to get other pieces, and then you draft well. Sion James and Kalkbrenner, and it's been great. You kept Trey Mann, and so everything they've done, they went out now and got Kobe White. He's yet to play. We'll see after the break here, how he does. But again, the Hornets sitting here 26-29, 3 games from 500. This late in the season, I did predict they would win about 37, 38 games, which would still probably get them in the play-in, right? They're the highest team, 9th place right now here at the All-Star break, 4.5 games from the 6th seed, 2.5 behind the 8th-seeded Miami Heat, and I believe 3 games from the 7th-seeded Orlando Magic. So, here at the All-Star break, they're right there. And like I said, they're climbing. They're beating teams that you never thought they would win. They're winning on the road. We've talked about this. And again, a hard-fought victory the other night, their last game before the All-Star break against the Hawks. And they've kind of like positioned themselves to win a tiebreaker against Atlanta when it comes down to seeding for the playoffs, play-in. The other thing that happened, recently was that, was the streak. Yeah, and I'll get into the more recent. But yeah, so they did have the streak. Like I said, 9 games. Hasn't happened since 99. A 99 team who if you look back in history, they had a lot of changes, and it kind of molded the team that before they left, which was one of my favorite teams of the Charlotte Hornets. They got some pieces that made it coaching and a trade that eventually worked out. I think they made a few other moves on top of that. But that 99, it was the 98-99 team of the lockout season. And they had that 9-game win streak late in the season. They had, moved on from Cowens as a coach during the year, got Paul Silas, traded Glenn Rice during the season. So they in that trade, they picked up Eddie Jones and Eldon Campbell. Obviously, they would later, flip Eddie Jones away. Anthony Mason was out this season, but they still had Bobby Fields, one of my favorites, David Wesley, an all-time Hornet. They had picked up Derek Coleman. So outside, that roster, like the names I named, you knew, but some of the other guys, Brad Miller, a solid player, Chuck Person late in his career. But that team was to build into that next team that had the Baron Davis, the P.J. Brown, obviously Eldon Campbell still there, David Wesley still there, Jamal Mashburn, to build into that team. So think about that 98-99 season, basically though in 1999. So now in 2026, you think about, 27 years later, they have a 9-game win streak and they're actually relevant. And they, to say that is like, we've seen like when they were the Bobcats, they went to the playoffs, and we remember, obviously Kemba Walker and Al Jefferson, and they've had flashes of, with the Steven Jackson and Jason Richardson and McGee, they've had flashes of stuff here, but nothing like they've built now. And of course, we can talk about who gets credit for this. Like, does Michael Jordan get any credit? Because he gets a that rep of not being a good owner, and I think he kind of did check out. But some of the moves he has to get credit for, right? And again, selling his shares of the team majority to an ownership group that's gonna want to win and want to put together a winning program and culture here in Charlotte that we haven't had since, those 90s and early 2000s, again, before they left to New Orleans. So, sometimes you got to be patient. And that's what I was preaching with LaMelo Ball to people. Just be patient. They said, well, he's always injured. I said, well, remember, Stephen Curry was injured a lot early in his career, and then look at him. You just don't give away young talent and think you're going to survive. It's hard. It's hard to get players and talent on your team, and you do that through the draft. And when you draft players like a LaMelo Ball, who again is still young, and you control him, with contract, you don't just give him away. Because it's hard to replace that, right? You got to get back in the lottery, and you got to get back in the draft, and you got to pick it, and you got to get it right. And the way the lottery is, it's like you got to kind of get lucky that you jump up in the draft, or you get to pick how bad you are. And I'm gonna get into the draft again, right? But so and I've obviously been wrong on who I thought they should pick and who they didn't pick, and they did pick. So I'll admit my mistakes. Hopefully they admit their mistakes, because there's obviously a draft history, and I'm going to do a show one day about the draft history of the Hornets. But you look at a Brandon Miller. I was worried because of the stuff at Alabama, and then at the time we'd just come off the issues with Miles Bridges, and it's like, okay, how many issues can you have on a team? And I was all behind Miles Bridges because, once again, I'm like, you can't just give away guys. See what happens. Unless you can get a superstar, make a deal to replace him, you kind of got to just see what happens, because, someone's going to sign him. And I was definitely right about Miles Bridges. Like, he is playing really good basketball, and each year he gets better and better. He was playing really good basketball when he had to sit out the year and his suspension and all that stuff. So, he easily can average 20 points a game. But I was worried about that with Brandon Miller and Bridges, but I knew Bridges and Ball had a good connection, so I didn't want to lose that. So I'm really glad they kept Bridges. Obviously, Brandon Miller has worked out, and he was the second pick of the draft. So, I mean, they missed out on Wemby, but you get Miller, who is going to be a future All-Star. And then Con Knipple, I just, again, I wasn't sure. Even being a Duke fan and watching them play, again, I don't get paid to watch, but you look and you think, hey, we just need the best player available, this guy. And I know what they were going for. And obviously they proved to be smarter than me on this one. So I can't admit that mistake. But I am really happy, obviously, that Con Knipple is what he is. My son told me, he said, Dad, he's gonna be good. So I can't admit my mistakes. I'm not always right, man. Like I just go off instinct, and you think about the NBA, and you just wonder, like, will this guy work out? Is he gonna be this guy? He's gonna be this guy, and you really don't ever know until they hit the court. But like I said, they are definitely rolling the streak. At this point, I mean, I think definitely they make the play in. We talk about the trade they made with Sexton to get Kobe White. I think Kobe White will be a good addition. I really do. And, hopefully that'll be a huge spark off the bench for them. And again, if they choose to do Melo off the bench and start White, I think it's a good thing. And again, Charles Lee is coaching better. He's making the right moves at the right time. And again, all this attention, it's really good stuff, and it's just good for the city. And I see people jumping on the bandwagon, and that's okay. Now again, the Spectrum Center is not the Hive back in the 90s. It's not going to be bumping, but it's still getting, starting to get there. It's just, but there's more to that of, can it get bumping, and, how many people are going to go watch and things like that. But that's the NBA in itself. But as for the Hornets, again, I do think they make the play-in for sure. I think they have an outside shot at, can they climb up to that 6th seed? It's going to be tough, but, they're right there. If they just keep playing good ball like they're doing, it's a climb, right? But I think definitely they're going to be right there. And then based off of what's coming up here, I really do hope they get that 8th seed in the playoffs. Because again, this Hornets team, it's a new era, and it's showing that we got these young stars, this core, this group, and they are showing a little bit of a new attitude as well. So with this new attitude, they had the fight, and the fight looked like with the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons did end their win streak. They ended up losing by 6, so a close game at home. The fight was the big story, right? It was everywhere. Again, they were getting attention for their play and the win streak, and now they were getting attention for showing some fight, showing some attitude to the top seed in the East. And I loved it. I loved that one of their quiet players, like Moussa Diabate, was not going to back down from trying to get bullied, by Jalen Duren. And he wasn't going to, Miles Bridges was like, Isaiah Stewart, you're not coming off the bench and inserting yourself into an altercation, thinking someone's going to be scared of you because, you bullied, you got on LeBron and you were going to fight the king. Like Miles Bridges, yeah, you play in Detroit. Miles Bridges is from, Michigan. He ain't backing down from you guys. So, yeah, I mean, he went to Michigan State. Like I said, he ain't backing down from you guys. He's going to come right at you, too. He ain't scared of Isaiah Stewart. And Diabate was not scared of Jalen Duren. Like, again, Coach Bickerstaff want to act like that it was the Hornets who started the fight. And, they initiated everything. No, Jalen Duren initiated it with the, palm to the face of Diabate. And then Diabate's like, yo, man, I'm a grown man. Like, you are not going to push me, mug me in the face. Like, I'm coming after you. And he lost it, right? and Duran hid behind the referees. So great for him. Bridges stuck up for his teammate, which is great. And that shows that this team has each other's backs, not just during the game, but something goes down, man. They're there for each other. And, the only thing about the fight, obviously, you get close to the fans and you don't want another Malice in the Palace. I don't know what you would call it there, here at Buzz City at Spectrum Center. The scrum, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not even trying to make up a. But yeah, so interestingly enough, it involved the Detroit Pistons. But yeah, Stewart, coming off the bench and later, and like I said, Bridges sticking up and. Like I said, Coach Lee got ejected in the game. He lost it too. He was fired up. And again, emotions running high. And I think it was a big game for the Hornets to kind of prove themselves. And again, against the top seed, Detroit, no matter what year it is, right, they're always going to be, deemed a little bit of tougher and a little attitude and stuff like that. And them playing so well this year, they probably had a chip to come in and say, yeah, we're going to end the Hornets streak, which they did. And the Hornets are also still, every game they play right now, they're trying to prove themselves to say, we're not just beating bad teams. We're going to beat, LA in LA, Denver in Denver, OKC in OKC, and the Spurs come to town and we're going to beat them and these good teams, and we're going to battle with the Cavs and we're going to battle with the Warriors or the Clippers and, have some other, close games that even if you lose, you're like, yeah, but it was just like they're right there, and they were right there, and they're proving it. And this fight again, it's that new attitude that says, look, we're here, and we're not backing down from anybody. We don't care if you try to bully us, you try to punk us. We're gonna come right back at you. So with that being said, like I said, I hope they are the 8. I hope they end up being like the 8 seed. I mean, wouldn't you want to see these two teams battle in the playoffs? I mean, it would be great basketball. And then again, it have that extra storyline of they've had this altercation. So now where do we go from here? And I mean, like I said, it had me pumped up and had me thinking that again, this team is ready to go. So yeah, I just, quick, wanted to go over that fight. And I know it happened, last week, but I think they can build off of that. They came right back the next game and won. And, when we talk about, how are they going to look in the second half, coming off that win is good. The only thing is their schedule is, winning the game against the Hawks was big. Obviously, from the fight, not even looking at Detroit's side because I don't even care about that side. But Bridges and Diabate got suspended 4 games for their role in it. So they've already missed 1. So when they come off the All-Star break, they're going to have the Rockets at home, the Cavs at home, and then they go to Washington. So good news is 2 of those games are at home, and 1 of those games are against the Wizards. They've already beat the Hawks, so they got that game out of the way, won it without, 2 of their, winning starting lineup. The Rockets will be a little tougher, missing guys. They beat them in Houston, but, missing guys, obviously, it's going to be tough. The Cavs are playing really good ball now. They got James Harden. So being down player, guys, starters like that is going to be tough. Wizards, you never know what you're going to get out of Washington. They're so young, and obviously we'll talk about them in a minute, but the big names they traded for, they're not even playing. So I have all the confidence, though, in the Hornets, and, they come out of these 4 games going, 2-2, 3-1 maybe, but not, I'm looking at maybe the best case here. Let's go 2-2, and you're still, within, 4 games of 500, right? And that's okay because you're still going to probably be, right there in that 8-9 range of the seeding, 10 range, and then you can get back to business against, some teams because after that they're in Chicago, in Indiana, and then at home against Portland. And again, I really don't look at games anymore for them and say, oh, they can't win that game, or, some games I'm like, yeah, that's going to be tough, right? Like the San Antonio game, I was like, that's going to be tough. And then they're like, boom, shocked you. We're going to win. I'm like, yo, they can beat anybody any night. Put it together. They get down, they come back. They blow leads, they hold on. So, in their winning streak, they've really showed that. And then again, back to the fight again. Like I said, it was just showing their toughness. That it's not just basketball. Again, they are ready to play anybody, fight anybody. They are not the same Charlotte Hornets. They're damn sure not the Charlotte Bobcats, but they're more, trying to get that, again, that 90s or early 2000s type of vibe here in the city at the Spectrum Center. Again, it's Buzz City now. It's not the Hive. It's Buzz City. But, yeah, so let's see how it goes this second half. It's going to be fun basketball, and it's good to have that, again, in the city, people talking about it, the media talking about it, that the Charlotte Hornets, maybe, just maybe, this will catapult them into having their first ever game on Christmas Day next year, because if not now, then when? All right, so rolling on into the NBA and in general, the big topic lately with the NBA is, I don't know why it's a surprise, but tanking in the NBA. Like I said, if you listen to the show or don't listen, it's your first time listening to the show, go back. I'm going to talk about it here in a minute, but we talk about this in episode 8 of our podcast, as we have only, started in September. And of course, now we've transitioned into this solo, just me, Kent, and doing the show. But again, the show had it. We talked about NBA and, players playing and rest and load management and all these things. So I'm going to get into all that here in a minute. But first, the news and the hot topic is tanking, because you had the Utah Jazz to just sit out all their players in the second half of a game and lose, obviously. You had the Pacers sitting players. So the Jazz ended up getting fined $500,000. The Pacers got fined $100,000. It's not enough. Adam Silver, he's been working. I don't know if he's been working hard to fix the NBA, but tanking is nothing new, right? Teams just they start to lose, and then they just say, I'm out, and they stop playing guys. They don't want them to get hurt, and they're not giving you a product to watch. And that, of course, brings me to that, the price of a ticket to a game. And what are you getting to watch? And again, we've talked about this on this show before. As a fan, you go to a game to watch the best play. You don't go to the NBA games to watch G Leaguers or randoms playing basketball. And I don't want to hear the excuse, well, you come for the experience. Well, part of the game is the main experience. And when you're paying a certain price for a ticket, and you're charging parking, and you're charging for everything, and everything is so high, I mean, I came to watch the best players. And that's the biggest difference of now and then, growing up watching the Hornets, which, and I'm bringing back to the Hornets here, was here in Charlotte. Going to a Hornets game was, great. You knew when you went, I'm going to watch tonight. I'm going to watch Jordan. I'm going to watch Shaq and Penny. I'm going to watch David Robinson, Charles Barkley. When I went to a game, I knew I'm going to see the stars. You don't know that. It could be last minute. You only know it for your own team. And you can say, well, you should be just a fan of the team. Well, no, if I'm going to pay for the ticket, I want to see the top players play. I want to see Melo, Miller, Knipple, Bridges. Mainly, I want to see those four. Those are the stars, right? So the tanking, it baffles me. I mean, I get it to a degree, but when you got teams like the Wizards who trade for a Trae Young and Anthony Davis, and I don't know that either one of them are going to play the second half of the season. So you not only did you trade for guys who people would come to watch, but for this season, at least, they're not. They're not going to play. So what are they? Who are your fans going to watch, right? You would say maybe they're going to watch whoever's coming to play the Wizards, but then, as we've learned, a lot of these teams and all these stars, they pick these games against bad teams to rest their top players. What is that about, right? Again, you're still charging money. You're still charging full price. And, you could go on to, StubHub or Vivid or SeatGeek, and you could probably find cheap tickets at times. But most nights, still with everything in fees, again, family of four, I don't know what they're paying, right? So I don't know how you do it, to be honest with you. But I'm just buying 2 tickets at a time and think it's ridiculous. But yeah, so tanking, it's been a problem, and it's been something, and you can call it whatever, right? And it all ties together with the rest and load management. But now I think it's kind of got your eyes open that it is just so blatant and not even trying to be hid like load management or resting players. It's just, we're just not going to play our best players because we want to lose and get that top draft pick. Whatever we can do to get a top draft pick, collect draft picks, all these things. And, I heard, I've been listening to Levitard and all these other shows. Once again, Bill Simmons, and it's a topic on Get Up and First Take and what do you do? And they're like, shorten the season. Then they, what else is it? Shorten the season. And then the other was don't have a draft, which was just like, let college players come to the league and sign, let teams bid for them and sign them to contracts like free agents. And oh my God, I'm like, come on. So yeah, so it's not even, it's just funny to me, really, that it's such a big deal now. This has been going on. This is trending this way. Again, I'm going to talk about again. I'm going to revisit the fix for the NBA in a minute. Our idea, log off our idea. We've got it printed out. We've got it time stamped. And it bothers me that, recently there was an idea about this come out that copied us. And I'm like, well, we should get some royalties, or we should get included in this. But with the tanking, the NBA, like I said, the fines, they're not big enough. 500,000, 100,000 for a team, not big enough. Make it more. Start taking draft picks. If they're not, they normally do it when teams sit players for televised games. But then you're not helping the fan. The fan is the one that come watch the games. The fans are the ones who, they are what makes you make the money you make. I know advertising and all that, but you still got to have fans, right? You still got to have people in the seats buying your product, buying your jerseys, and the NBA is doing fine, but not as fine as they could be, and not as fine as they have been. When we go back to the should they play shorter seasons? It doesn't matter. 82 games, 52 games, 60 games, whatever the players are still not going to play a full season. You can really get that out of your mind. I don't believe that because they've made their money. There's no incentive for them to play. No one is really punishing them for not playing. They're actually, again, they're incentivizing, they've kind of been like pushing them the opposite direction. There's no reason, right? It's kind of like the conferences, right? I mean, you have divisions in the NBA, but no one really cares. No one really knows who's in what division. There's no rivalries in the divisions. It's all conference related now. when you expanded the playoffs to the play-in, now you've almost included the entire conference, right? So you got way too many teams in the playoffs, or at least you have to play in and then the playoffs, right? So even expanding that, even adding the in-season tournament, all these things, you're only, again, that only makes guys play for, a handful of games. And there again, then they go back to, resting and sitting and, load management. And I hear like, well, basketball is different now. The game's different. It's played harder. It's more. Look, you can watch any NBA game, and again, I watch the Hornets, and I will check in on other games. I think it depends on the night. Again, you can clearly see guys taking nights off, whether they're playing or not playing. So, whether it's the tanking or that, again, it's hurting the product. And that's what this is really, getting down to is the product on the court. And again, it's the thing that I've been saying and I've been preaching. And now I hear it on TV and podcast. And it's, no one wants to watch, guys with, this. You want to watch this? Yeah, we do want to watch the stars. Again, I told you, I don't want to watch G Leaguers. Where are the NBA teams? Where are the roster? Why is this guy not playing? Guys can't play back to back. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. Michael Jordan said it, right? I mean, your job is to play basketball. I mean, that's your job. It's not a hard job, and you're paid to play it for a few hours. Now, yeah, you practice and you do this and obviously flights and blah, blah, blah. But again, you're a better athlete now than probably before, right? The athletes are better. I know the game is different, but they've made it where, it's not as physical as it was. So in that respect, I mean, the game itself has not changed. I mean, it has changed, but I'm saying, like, if you're saying, oh, well, it's tougher and you need rest and the game, there's 82 games now. Again, I'm telling you, most guys don't play defense. Again, it's benefiting to the offense. And again, it's not as tough. I mean, like I said, there's not as much contact. So, spare me that. Spare me that, you can't play 82 games. I never liked the argument of we can't play the amount of games that has been playing. And I can say this in my lifetime. So for 45 years, you mean to tell me now you need less games in a season, but you still want your same amount of money, right? Right. Nah. That ain't how it works. Like, again, I'm all about the money. I'm all about that they get paid money because they generate money. But when you don't play the amount of games in a season and then you want to play less games, then I'm like, yo, well, you want your money though, right? You want to get paid millions for playing a game, guaranteed contracts, but you don't want to actually play every game. So all that to tie this together here is, again, there's two problems with the NBA, right? It is the tanking, and that's teams just tanking clear as day. And then back to the players not playing and resting and things like that. And again, what it affects is the product on the court. If you're watching, at home, trying to watch it on TV, like, are you tuning in again to watch guys you don't know? Like, you want to watch the stars. And again, in person, again, tickets cost a lot, parking costs a lot, food costs a lot. Everything costs a lot to go to professional sports. And if you're thinking about your fans and families, you're just not going to get it. It will eventually go away year by year by year. It will go down if you do not give them a product. All right. And again, you can find teams a few thousand, to me, $100,000, a couple $100,000 is nothing. In-season tournament, dumbest thing ever. Means nothing in the grand scheme of things, means absolutely nothing. You cannot convince me otherwise. I've said this and I'll keep saying it. It does nothing for the game. It does nothing for the regular season because it is a meaningless trophy, a meaningless tournament that again, it is not fixing anything, and you can see that right now because we are getting into the part of the season. Again, All-Star break, All-Star weekend, and now, again, you got teams that are really not even good, and they're resting players to tank, to be worse than they are. Again, so give the fans what they want. Again, this show is about fans. I am a fan, so I want to see good basketball. I want to see, the best of the best playing in the NBA. Give me a reason to watch. And these teams, like I said, they're tanking, and they're trying to figure out now. They're scrambling again, trying to figure out, how do we fix this? How do we do this? And again, episode 8 of Fanatically Speaking, we gave you the secret sauce, and I'm about to revisit it. All right. So how do you fix the NBA? I'm not going to go into huge details on this. I'm not going to get back into every little detail of the fix. I've got the fix. I keep putting it out there on social. I'm commenting every time I see these clips about the tanking and about the how do we fix the NBA and how do we do this and this blah blah blah. It's actually pretty easy for the most part. And there's probably some details again to make it a little better, or tighten it up, or clean it up. But again, I'm not going to get into everything. But again, all you do is you have a tournament, not an in-season tournament. Get rid of that waste of time. If you want to incentivize no tanking and have every team and every player playing hard up until the end of the season and after the season and into the playoffs, you take the teams that don't make the playoffs and you have a tournament before the play-in and the playoffs, right? Or vice versa, play-in and then have the tournament, then the playoffs, right? Because you got to get all the teams that are in the lottery. All the trade stuff will get worked out. There's ways to do that, right? We're going to have to start limiting, protected picks, things like that. There's a way to do it. But again, not to go into all the details, but once again, it's we got the fix. I keep saying it. I'm going to say it. I have to double down now that this is a topic. I'm like, man, I got to talk about this again. So it was in episode 8. Here is episode 50, and 50 total, included bonus. I think it'll actually be like episode 47 on the out there. But anyways, all that to say, the NBA fixes have a tournament with the teams that do not make the playoffs and have them play up until, and they play in again to get the top pick of the draft. And it'd actually be the top 2 picks of the draft. I think we ended up saying the 2 teams that played in the championship of this tournament the winner would get the top pick, the loser would get the second pick, and then everybody else that was in the tournament. Then you get a live lottery on TV to have the balls picked. Nothing behind closed doors. Everything's out in the open. It clears up everything with thinking that it's rigged. It gives another reason to watch TV. It gives you more games. It makes you more money. Players get to play more games. Everything it fixes everything. It gives, again, more money, more eyeballs, just another event. Like we talk about the NFL, why do they do so well? They have, they make free agency big. They make the draft big. They make the offseason big. They make preseason. Everything the NFL does, they market it and they make it an event. The NBA has to do the same. And they would do it here, right? Now you have a lottery tournament, right? Then you have the play-in. Then you have the, playoffs. And after the playoffs, now you got to have the lottery. But the lottery is going to, like I said, it's already the top 2 are determined by the tournament. And then you get a live lottery for the rest of the teams. And it's just going to be random, right? If it's random, then there's no way that you're going to try to tank to be the worst team. Okay? Why do I say that? Again, I am actually going into details. Because the way the seeding works, where you get home games for the lottery tournament, as I call it, right, is again, if you're the 11 seed in the East and the 11 seed in the West, like you're going to get a higher seed in the tournament, right? The better you finish, the higher the seed, the more advantage you have to win that tournament, to get a good pick for your team. Okay? So that fixes that. I mean, no one's going to want to lose. Guys, and you think about, what if guys are going to be free agents? What if this? What do they care if the team? Well, I mean, maybe they want to stay with that team. Maybe if that team gets a top pick, then they may stay and sign with that team. They're also going to get paid more for playing another game. They're playing extra games. That's more money, right? If you win a game, you get, each game you play, you get a check. It's pretty simple. The team gets more money. The players get more money. There's a benefit. There's no tanking. Everyone, every team, every player should be wanting to play more. And at least that fixes that part with the draft and the tanking, everything like that. It fixes. Now, as far as awards go and guys playing a certain amount of games and things like that. Look, if you're injured, you're injured. And if you're injured, you didn't play enough games to get an award. That's just plain and simple. That's normally how it works. So I don't have a fix for that, except, hey, if you're hurt, unfortunately, you're not going to make All-NBA and you're not going to be up for an award. But as far as the rest and the load management and things like that, choose wisely. That's what I say. Remember that. It's like when you're at work and you're looking at your time off and you're looking at your sick days and things like that. Well, you might want to make sure you're sick when you call in sick, because what if that day comes where you are sick and now you got to, or you don't have enough days. Now you're in trouble using your days. Get what I mean? So it's the same here. Like you're saying load management and rest, but then what if you get injured? Now you're actually hurt. Now you're actually missing games, and that's going to add with the games that you just took off. So maybe don't take off games. Maybe play when you're healthy to play. Maybe. And then maybe you'll get your award. Maybe then you'll be eligible. Like I said, that's a lot of games to miss in a season if you're not actually injured. But I get what they were doing there. I get what the NBA is trying to. They were trying to get guys to play. But again, it seems like that's not even working now. And again, if you get hurt, you get hurt, and there's different kind of injuries, and it's also one of those things where you can't have nice things because of other people when they take advantage of the system, and that's what happened. Guys were taking advantage of the system. They wanted their money, but didn't really want to play. And now when guys get hurt, they have to sit out, and now they're going under that threshold of the 65 games. You can get mad all you want at the NBA and the rule and things like that, but get mad at the ones that took advantage of the system, right? That's a lesson in itself, not just for the NBA right now, right? Get mad at the ones that took advantage of the system, right? Yeah, when you take advantage of things, then it hurts everyone else, and that's the case here in the NBA. They took advantage of the system, and now here we are. So, use your PTO wisely, NBA players, because, don't cry when you don't get awards. Don't cry about these things. Blame the ones that came before you. But, so, again, Adam Silver, NBA, we saw, like I said, there was I don't know who reported it. It was out of one of these sites that the NBA is discussing creating a tournament among lottery teams to determine draft order and to stop tanking. And again, I said, you're going to have to pay Log Off and myself. We came up with that idea. We need to be involved. You can use our idea. You're just going to have to pay us. Yeah, so with Log Off and you're going to have to pay us. Like you're using our idea, and that's why we put it out there with episode 8. Go back and listen. Go back and listen to all our episodes if you haven't. But and here I am again now doing this episode. Again, I have to revisit it because it is a hot topic in the NBA. It's everywhere. Again, you gotta, we got the fix. I really believe in it. I'm very confident in it. I'm sure there might be holes somewhere. And again, there's some ironing out of how you do the draft picks when you trade them away. And again, I recently did hear that maybe you get rid of protected picks. And maybe there's got to be something done about picks in general. I don't know. Like teams have 13 future picks and first round picks, and there's a lot going on when you make these deals. So I don't know about that. But there is ways to go around it. Again, like I said, in the tournament, it would be, again, some years it would be 14 teams. Sometimes it might be 11. It depends on like if you've made a trade with a playoff team that could be in the lottery. They're just they can't get the top pick. That would be cut out. These playoff teams who make trades, they're not going to get the top pick, or the top two pick. Right now, they would be involved in the lottery of the remaining teams because they would have a lottery pick technically. So, but with that being said, again, it's fun. I'm glad that it came back out because I get to talk about it again. As much as I can get this out, I want to get it out again. This has been something actually. When I say like we talk about teams tanking and this has been an issue, Log Off and myself. We came up with this idea probably like at least 7-8 years ago. No lie. To fix the NBA lottery. Because again, it was, you're dealing with, they think it's rigged. Like, oh, how'd that team get it? And how'd this team jump up? And how'd this lottery ball? That was originally it. With the extra benefit was to fix tanking and make more money and have everybody trying their best to get in the playoffs or getting a top pick, because you should be playing and trying to get in the playoffs, right? Whether it be a play-in, playoff. And I know it's like a borderline. Once you get to that 10-11, you're like, okay, do I just, it would be kind of that in a sense, right? Because you could say, well, we could get into the top pick of the draft, or we're trying to get in the play-in. But, I mean, you should want to get in the playoffs. That used to be a thing. Like, teams wanted to get in the playoffs. So, whether you take away the play-in and just go back to 8 teams, there's all kinds of things you could do with this. But I really do think the idea of a tournament for the lottery teams to, decide, at least for my plan, for our plan would be, the top 2 picks, and then everything else kind of gets a live lottery. So that's the fix. I went into details again. I said I wasn't, but I kind of have to kind of explain it again to everyone again. I'm not going to lie. That episode didn't get a lot of downloads for whatever reason. So hopefully this time we listen and we take this and, I'm going to keep spreading it. I'm going to keep sharing it. I'm going to keep commenting. And I hope that I get lucky that, Adam Silver and the NBA, someone hears it, because I am not just saying it to say it. I want credit. Log Off and I want credit for, this idea, because we had this idea. This has been around. We got it time stamped. This is not something we just came up with. We've got it. And, and for those who are listening, right, like if you don't know, Log Off was the co-host of the show, and now I'm the solo host. So let's get that out of the way. I don't think I explained that in the beginning. So if I start mentioning Log Off anytime, it is definitely because he was the co-host, and now I am the solo host. So with that being said, I believe that's it. This is another episode of Fanatically Speaking. I am Kent. You can find us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You can listen to us, or me, on any podcast out. Apple, Amazon, Spotify. We're on YouTube. No video, but you can listen to us. As I always say, tap that app. And, well, for this episode, I am out.